What's going on, guys? This is Ryan, aka Kenner and Clark, and I don't know if you could notice, but we have a little bit of a setting change. So I needed to use my wife's Mac, so I'm sitting in her office right now. I'm a PC guy and she is a Mac girl, but from time to time I need to use the Mac because it does have some features that I do not currently have on my PC or my laptop. So let's get to the chase. All right, as BlockRoots, the name implies, our roots are in blockchain technology. And blockchain and Bitcoin in particular are two things that really piqued my interest for the first time in a long time, okay, compared to some of the assets in the traditional markets or the traditional asset space. All right, but it is important that we, keep our nose to the grindstone or our finger on the pulse. And when we think that certain things are worth paying attention to, I think that it would be only beneficial to you guys to key you in on these new developments or things that we think that are not only interesting to us, but might be interesting to you. So there's a few things, and I mentioned about a week and a half ago that one of the things that I am interested in looking at is CBD. So the medical marijuana space, it became a huge bubble, just like anything that's new and nascent. All right, when any new technology or development comes out, it has tremendous promise. It sort of builds up a ton of speculative frenzy, and what happens is you have a bubble. But as any bubble before, okay, typically bubbles bring change. All right, now in the beginning, there is somewhat of a something that's reflective of the Gartner hype cycle. So there's a ton of hype built up about something. The tech isn't quite caught up yet, and what happens is there's all these little, second-rate spin-ups or ideas that are born because everyone is looking to get in on the new, next 100 times investment opportunity, right? So what happens is there's all of these, just kind of carbon copies of what might be the real promising tech. If we're talking about technology, for example, such as Bitcoin and altcoins, there's all of these carbon copies, these cheap, poor copies, and essentially they're trying to capture what is the attention that is spun up from the original bubble, okay? So typically what we'll see is some type of Pareto distribution. So there'll be 20% of the sample will go on to capture most of the attention, and you'll see that 80% will just completely die off, and that might be even a generous figure. It might be something like 95% might go to die off. Now the CBD or medical marijuana market is one of these markets that I think has the same promise. And so first we're going to be talking about CBD, then I want to get into robotics, okay, then I want to touch on AI, all right, genomics, and pharmaceutical industry. Okay, so all of these things, okay, rather the pharmaceutical industry is the first one, and that has to do with CBD, specifically clinical grade CBD. All right, so we're not just talking about pot stocks. I want to make that clear right away. And we're not going to be deviating away from crypto whatsoever. Okay, I just want to spin up this channel and try to find things that I think might interest you guys, okay, because our whole purpose is to identify disruptive innovation. And when we see something that we think looks good, it is our duty essentially to let you know. All right. And again, this is just our opinion. This is not advice whatsoever. Okay. So just as a caveat, always do your own research. But we want to get into these things. Okay. We want to touch on these from time to time, and again, keep our finger on the pulse of innovation. Right. So roots in blockchain, finger on the pulse with everything else. Okay. We want to be forward-looking and progressive. Okay, so the first thing we'll get into is CBD, and I'm going to touch on that, and we'll have separate videos on that, and we will still be doing our weekly updates with cryptocurrency. By no means is this channel going to spin away from cryptocurrency whatsoever. We're just going to be adding things, okay, to further benefit you guys. We're not going to be taking anything away. So I want to get into CBD, like I said, okay, to me, something that's going to disrupt the pharmaceutical industry. All right, then I want to get into energy. All right, so alternative energy. So when it comes to disruptors, what do you think of? You think of Tesla with the automotive industry. All right, companies that, there are certain incumbents in that industry that basically live off of gasoline, live off of petroleum and oil. All right, and it is to their benefit to make sure that certain companies don't succeed, right? They're going to be affecting their business, all right, and their revenue streams. And then I want to get into robotics. Okay, all these sort of tie in, right? They're all connected by tech of some sort. Artificial intelligence, and then genomics, okay, because I think that when it comes to DNA sequencing, we're going to see a lot of change within the next 10 to 15 years. So first and foremost, CBD. All right, so everyone is familiar with the frenzy that existed with pot stocks 2017, 18, 19, when it kind of just all went to detritus. But this is good because this does leave the few behind that could potentially become the future incumbents in the space, that again are really pursuing safe and alternative means, okay, to combat what is a very well-grounded pharmaceutical industry that has certain alignments that need to be protected and that look at clinical grade marijuana or CBD as a potential threat to their business. So first things first, I'll show you guys this article. There's a few things that I think are worth pointing out. Everyone has seen the charts already, right? So there's no need to get into those. But let's take a look at the article real quick that was written on stockinvestor.com. There's a few companies, and this is what I'm trying to get at. All right, so here's the article, and I said actually let's not get into charts, but let's look at them really quickly. So when I look at these, I see something strikingly similar to cryptocurrency. I see a ton of charts that went through an initial boom phase and are now either continuously depreciating or beginning to look like they are bottoming out. All right, and similar to cryptocurrency, okay, there is a ton of initial promise, right? Initially with blockchain technology, there was a promise of banking the unbanked, okay, allowing the individual to take control over their personal sovereignty, their own wealth. All right, privacy was a big thing. Okay, Bitcoin is a store of value. It definitely is, in my opinion, still. It's just very early, right? So we have to really cull the flock, okay? With any new sector, any new market, any new innovation, you're going to have these cheap carbon copies try to come out and take advantage of, or these poor imitations try to come out and take advantage of the hype that is created around something new. So you'll likely see that Pareto distribution that I talked about, or Price's law. Well, you'll see just a few capture all of the attention eventually. All right, in the beginning, now we have 4,000 altcoins. Okay, maybe 10 cryptocurrencies are worth paying attention to. Now there's basically 28,000 medical marijuana companies, and there's probably only 10 worth paying attention to in that field as well. So with medical marijuana, there definitely is a promise, all right? But there was, again, that huge frenzy in the beginning where everyone, including a Long Island beverage company, attached themselves to the name marijuana in any way, shape, or form. So you have companies that came out just growing marijuana. You have companies that came out selling the paraphernalia. And initially, people were talking about just growing pot or buying pot and saying that that would be a substitution for the pharmaceutical industry alternatives that we currently use right now to cure certain issues that are apparently solved by cannabidiol or CBD. Okay, so we're talking specifically about epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, bipolar disorder, inflammation, anxiety, and even insomnia. So serious issues. So there definitely is a market for a true product or a true alternative right now to the massive pharmaceutical industry. So this represents an industry that can be disrupted. Now, in the beginning, there's all of these, again, companies that come out and they're producing with cryptocurrencies vaporware, but with marijuana companies, maybe they're trying to be the next big thing, but they're really just not there. Okay, so what we're going to need to see is, again, that period where there's that evolution, sort of that Darwinism within this market where it's survival of the fittest. And only the serious companies that are going on to develop something will move on into the future. Okay, there'll be a graveyard of evidence that resembles what initially came because of this. But again, we know now that it's not just marijuana that's going to cure issues. It is all of these new companies that are taking CBD-like compounds and they are creating healthy alternatives to what we currently get from the pharmaceutical industry. Okay, some of these extremely addictive and deadly chemicals that are currently being used by the mainstream, right, and that are tremendously addictive and dangerous. So there's an article that I'm going to attach, and it touches on this, okay? And this is why I want to start getting into other things besides cryptocurrency. Again, our focus is going to be on cryptocurrency, but I think that it's really important that we always try to stay at the forefront. And if we're trying to stay at the forefront, and with the experience that I have and Josh has, what we want to be able to do is be able to make you privy to that. All right, so again, these are all the companies that we are all familiar with. Aurora, GW Pharmaceuticals, which is actually a really good company. Some of these are going on to more or less replicate something like the S&P 500, so they are simply just following beta. Okay, so they're more or less following the market, but there are certain leaders within here. Okay, Some of these companies that are in the article, such as Cannabis, okay, such as Axim, in the article they touch on Tilray. All right, there is still, as this article says, promise in Cannabisville. Okay, there's absolutely an industry to be disrupted. All right, and it definitely has deep pockets. So that's one of the dangerous things, right? It's sort of like David taking on Goliath. Okay, but we're going to be betting on David, right? So take a look at this article. It talks about the fact that, again, hiding in plain sight, clinical cannabis. Okay, not taking the legalization of marijuana and more or less making a mockery of it and saying, for every person who was a hippie and loved to smoke pot is now, oh, this represents a huge milestone to them. And sure, it does for personal freedom. But the medical benefits from this are not going to just be derived from simply, in my opinion, smoking a joint. Okay, they are going to be from the research and development that comes from being able to patent certain things with regards to CBD, being able to do more and more research in this area, okay, now that it is essentially permissible. So take a look at this article. Again, I hope that you guys are going to find interest in some of the new stuff that we share. What we're trying to do is be more of what we are with cryptocurrency, right? What we're trying to do with cryptocurrency is stay at the forefront. And, a lot of our focus is on trading and a lot of our focus is on education around that. And it still is going to be absolutely. But from time to time, we're going to be introducing new and interesting things. And I think that it will only benefit everyone who follows. All right. So I'm going to link this article. Take a look at it. Give me your opinion, guys. Let me know what you think of all this. Again, I shared a survey not too long ago. Some of you responded directly to the survey. Some of you responded to the cryptocurrency content. So I want to know what your thoughts are on some of these things that we're going to be getting into. Okay, what your thoughts are on us getting into them to begin with. Okay, so do you mind that we're going to be getting into these things? Okay, from time to time, right? It's not going to be our every week market update. So when it comes to CBD, all right, clinical CBD, we're not just talking about pot stocks. We're not going to be sharing pot stock charts with you, okay? We're not trying to sell you anything. We're going to talk about AI, okay, robotics, because I think robotics are going to make a ton of jobs obsolete. So we want to know, okay, what companies are going to benefit from that push. All right, we're also going to get in genomics, okay, DNA sequencing, touch on some of these things that I think, or rather that we think, are going to be most relevant in the next 10 years. So that hopefully you guys can make some really smart decisions that do end up benefiting you, through compounding in the long run. So that's that, guys. As always, it's a pleasure. This is Ryan, aka Kenner & Clark with BlockRoots. Remember, our roots are in blockchain, but our finger is on the pulse of innovation. Have a great night, guys.